Hello, everyone. I know it's been a while. Work took over quite a bit of my life, and I wasn't able to get back to this project of mine. It's interesting how a book you think that you read maybe 4, 5, even 10 times, sometimes when you come back to it, you still discover little things about it, or you still find these things that you had not paid that much attention to, but when you're doing it for other people, you realize that each of those small little things have their own importance. So in one of my recordings, I went ahead and talked to you about the dedication that was put on at the front of this book. And what I missed out was a little poem at the beginning of the first chapter that Lady Stewart put in. So I'm going to read that now. Enter these enchanted woods, you who dare. Nothing harms beneath the leaves more than waves a swimmer cleaves. Toss your heart up with the lark, foot at peace with mouse and worm. Fair, you're fair. Only at a dread of dark, Quaver, and they quit their foam. 1,000 eyeballs under hoods have you by the hair. Enter these enchanted woods, you who dare. George Meredith, The Woods of Westermain. So it does give you a certain kind of a setting. To me, it feels like a almost spooky setting for a book that begins so brightly in certain ways. But I think it's a good setting of the atmosphere that should surround this book as well. Oh, and also, as all of us, or mostly all of us, are bound to our houses right now. Today, what you will hear is part of my weekendly chores that are happening in the background. My washing machine is kind of coming to the end of its cycle. So you're going to hear a little bit of extra sound in the background, and hopefully it doesn't interfere with the reading so much. Now, one other thing that I noticed, which I hadn't talked about while going through the first chapter of this book, was the pen sketches. And we talked about the cover, about the house and its surrounding gardens and everything, but we did not talk about the little pen sketches that they have at the starting of each chapter. So at the beginning of chapter 1, there's this little pen sketch of pigeons. 4 pigeons, 3 kind of looking around, not doing much. The 4th one preening itself, going through its feathers, and there's a lot of feathers on the ground around it. So, it's hard to tell whether this is a sketch of pigeons in a coop, so that's why there are so many feathers on the ground, or whether, they've just fought over a bit of food or something, which is why you see so many feathers strewn around. But, 4 pigeons, and that's how the sketch, that is the sketch that begins this chapter. So, considering the fact that this has been already quite delayed, I'll start from where we left off. So this is going to be the last part of the first chapter. There were no dragonflies, no wildflower meadows, and no hedgehogs. I begged for a pet, an animal of any kind, even a white mouse. But although, like all vicarages of that date, The place boasted a stable with stall and loose box and outhouses in plenty. I was allowed nothing. Occasionally, when the cat caught a bird or even a mouse, I tried to nurse the victim back to health, but without success. The cat herself resisted all overtures, preferring a semi-wild life in the outhouses. Then one day I was given a rabbit by the curate, who bred them. It was an unresponsive pet, but I loved it dearly, until within weeks my mother insisted that it be given back. Next morning, when the curate called, as he did daily to talk with my father, he brought my rabbit back, skinned and jointed and ready for the pot. I ran upstairs and was sick, while my father tried gently to explain to the astonished and offended curate, and my mother, for once warmly sympathetic, followed me and mopped up. By the time grief and horror had subsided, the curate, rabbit and all, had gone. The incident was never mentioned again. They say that the mind makes its own defenses. Looking back now down the years, I can recall very little about this part of my childhood. The occasional treat, trips by bus with my father, walking with him round the parish, the kindness of some of the miners' wives who called me Jilly and treated me with the same sort of fond respect they accorded my father, and then looked sideways and asked, with a different kind of respect, after my mother. And the hours spent alone in my cold bedroom, drawing and painting, always animals or flowers, or standing, looking out of the window over the graveyards and the sycamore trees at the red, dusty sunset beyond the pit heap, and wishing. Wishing what? I never knew. Then one day, without warning, she came again. Cousin Geillis, paying what she called a farewell visit before leaving on a trip to see her and my mother's family in New Zealand. She would, she said, take messages or gifts, and she would be gone for some time. In those days before air travel, such a journey took months, and a year was hardly too long to reckon on for a trip which would take the traveller right round the world. There were so many places, she said, that she wanted to see. The names went over my head: Angkor Wat, Cairo, Delhi, the Philippines, Peru. She would come back when she had seen them all. And meanwhile, she had brought a dog for me to keep. It was a collie, black and white, thin and eager and loving, a lost dog that she had taken in and would not leave to chance and man's unkindness. Here's the license. It is Geillis' dog. She needs... I thought she was going to say something to love, and went cold. But she finished merely companionship, someone to go walks with. What's his name? I was down on the cold flags or the kitchen floor with the dog. It was too good to be true. I dared not look at my mother. That's for you to give him. He's yours. I shall call him Rover, I said into the dog's fur. He licked my face. Oh, poor Bernal, said my cousin Geillis, but he's not proud. Goodbye. She did not kiss me when she went. I never saw her kiss anyone. She walked out of the house, and a moment later the bus came along and she climbed aboard. That's strange, said my father. Must be an extra. The regular bus went 10 minutes ago. I saw it. My mother smiled. Then the smile vanished as her eye fell on the dog and on me, down beside him with both arms round him. Get up at once, and if you are going to keep that dog, he will have to be tied up. What on earth Geillis was thinking of, saddling us with a dog when there will be nobody here to look after him, I do not know. I'll look after him. I can easily... You won't be here. I gaped at her. I waited. One did not question my mother. What she wanted to tell, she told. She set her mouth till it looked very like the one in my grandmother's portrait. You are to go away to school. Cousin Geillis is right. You need companionship and to be brought out of yourself and made less of a dreamer. And since she... Don't look so stricken, darling. This was my father gently. You like it? You will, really. And you do need companionship and friends. It's such a chance for us we couldn't possibly afford it ourselves. But Cousin Geillis has offered to pay the major part of your fees. As your godmother... She prefers to be called a sponsor, said my mother, a little sharply. My father looked grieved. Yes, I know. Poor Geillis. But since she is so kindly helping us, we must seize the chance. You do see, don't you, Jill? The dog was standing very close against me. I stooped and put my arms around him again. Suddenly the bleak, lonely vicarage seemed very desirable, the meagre fields and the walks over the starved countryside, lovely and beckoning places. Please, I said. Oh, please, need I go, Mummy? She was already turning away, no doubt with the clothes lists and school trunks in her mind, and also, as I think I knew even then, the delectable prospect of 8 months of the year free of the presence of a daughter. She did not reply. Daddy, do I have to? Your mother thinks it's best. He let it slide, uneasy, but always kind. A hand went to his pocket and came out with half a crown. Here, Jilly. Get him a feeding bowl of his own. Wood's shop has some with dog on them. I noticed yesterday. And keep the change. The dog licked my face. It seemed he liked the taste of tears because he licked it again. And that is the end of chapter 1.